what it's like working during COVID. And I got thinking, it was very challenging, extremely challenging. Not something I would ever want to live through again. Not just working, but just the day-to-day. Well, I'm not telling you anything, you know what I'm talking about. It was awful. And I thought that would make an interesting video. So I'm just going to kind of start at the beginning. January of 2020. Linda and I are in Costa Rica. And, let me see now. Yeah, it was around the end of January. We're in Costa Rica on vacation. Now, the whole time we were there, we were with this tour. There's about maybe 14, 15 of us on this tour. And we spent the whole time together riding in a bus, doing a land tour, always together eating in restaurants. And not once did this conversation ever talk about coronavirus or COVID-19 or whatever, right? There was never any talk of this virus, which was very bizarre because we talked about everything. I mean, you name something, we talked about it because you're together that long for I think it was like 10 days or 2 weeks, I can't remember, but we were together quite a while. But I remember when I got back around the end of, it was early February because we were gone from, I think, late January, early February, something like that. And I took my daughter off her birthday and I still hadn't heard anything about it, but then I started hearing things about it shortly after that. Now, before I go any further, like I said, I got myself a DR.PEPPER. Got myself this pizza from the deli. Got some leftover cookies from my other video. But, yeah, these pizzas are actually pretty good. I don't mind them one bit. They're pretty good. So, I'm back in Canada. February. Back to work. Now on my breaks. I was in the TV room. I had 2 coffee breaks and a half-hour lunch break, and I would spend most of my time. This was really nice out. I'd sit outside sometimes, but I enjoy just watching the news. I'm kind of a news junkie. And I don't believe everything I hear, but I still enjoy watching the news. That's a good pizza. That's a deluxe. Kind of a medium crust. Very nice. So anyway. So at that time, I remember there's all these demonstrations and protests going on in China, like Hong Kong and all that. And that was kind of the top story. And I remember hearing something about this virus. And every once in a while you hear this little thing about a virus, I started hearing more and more about it. I remember they were quarantining certain parts of the city. I remember thinking that's like the weirdest thing in the world, And then they quarantined the whole city. And I just couldn't wrap my brain around quarantining a whole city, a whole city under quarantine. That was so bizarre. So this story suddenly went from being a little blip about, maybe 15 or 20 minutes in the newscast to being like within the first couple of minutes. It was becoming a top story. So, I mean, you kind of know the rest. I guess it started in Wuhan, China, thereabouts. Apparently, I found out late, started in December, but I never heard about it till sometime in February, maybe early March. But I remember once again sitting in the TV room at work, and of course by then the virus had made its way to North America, and they were shutting down baseball and hockey and basketball. When I heard that, I just couldn't believe it. I was just absolutely stunned. When you shut down stuff like that, you know it's got to be serious. America's favorite pastime, all that stuff, all that money, serious. Now, I'm not here to talk about conspiracy theories or whatever. I'm focusing basically on what it was like working through the virus. So, prior to all hell breaking loose, I had my daily routine at work. We all did. But then, of course, we started getting these little briefings, And I believe it was around March 13th or something. It was declared a pandemic or thereabouts, but it was, everything changed. Suddenly, when we came to work, we all had to come in one door, the front door, enter the front door, exit the front door. Prior to that, the kitchen and all of the food service was all in the basement of this building. We had a side door by the loading bay. We just came and went through that one. Suddenly we couldn't do that anymore. Very weird. And as you know, things are changing all the time. I remember for watching the news, it seems so out of control. I think what was so perplexing was there didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to this virus. If you had 3 people, one person could get it, basically be asymptomatic, or maybe have a slight cold, sniffles. Another person could end up in the hospital for a couple of weeks and then recover after being on a ventilator. Another person could die within a week. So, like I said, there was no rhyme or reason to it. So, of course, next thing at work, we're doing temperatures. Everybody has to have their temperature taken when they come in, and then we record the temperature. Eventually, it'd be when you came in and when you went out. Sometimes they do random tests that come down to the kitchen or any other department. And then have this electronic thermometer. It's kind of like a gun. You put up your head, take your temperature. Random type thing. I remember one time when I was signing out, one of the young women, she was a carrier, she had a really rough day. And she was taking her own temperature with the electronic thermometer, shaped like a gun. She puts it to her head and says, "Did you ever have one of those days where you wish this was a real gun?" It just cracked me up. Yeah. So things are getting crazier, not only at work, but everywhere else, as we all know, right? I remember I didn't go to the store for 2 weeks, and when I did, it was like some kind of apocalypse. It was like, it was weird. There was nothing on the shelves. Everybody's all masked up. You walk around the corner, come face to face with somebody, and they go, "Oh, everyone's all sketchy and freaked out." Next thing you know, they're hammering up plexiglass everywhere. Air was on the floor. But getting back to work, one of the first things I noticed was trying to order food. Suddenly we were running out. Meat. Meat was in short supply. We used to normally get, like roasting hens, we get maybe about 40 of them at that one time. Couldn't get any, If we could get something, it was an inferior product. I got a few cookies here. Like I showed you earlier. That was kind of weird. Like a little diving board. Boing, boing. Anyway. This pizza has some heat to it. So, we kept thinking, let's pray we don't get a breakout at work. The virus had now arrived in the town I live in. And of course it was top story all the time. That's all you heard. Coronavirus, eventually COVID-19. The rules and regulations changing. Travel was changing. Couldn't go anywhere. A lot of people at work were freaked out. And by this point, see, I actually thought this would be over by the summer. When this started in March, well, when the shutdown began in March, I thought, well, by July or August it'll be behind us. But at work, suddenly we had to not only wear a mask. If you were cooking, you had to wear a face shield as well. And some people were not showing up. Some people thought they had the virus. May have just been a cold, whatever. I remember having a mask on, like the one I just showed you, then a face shield. And I was trying to taste something. I had the fork, I went to taste something, went clunk against my mouth. I kept forgetting, right? Very frustrating. And hot. Whew. So by this point, like I said, there's talk of vaccinations. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Eventually, the province of British Columbia would mandate that all healthcare workers be vaccinated. My mother was 94 at the time, and I was in close contact with her because like as you know, I drive her to her doctor's appointments and blah, blah, blah. And so I see her quite a bit. And also, because of my age at that time, I was 62, I think. I was 63 at the time. So I was concerned about my age. I remember my coworker said, Mark, if this virus gets us, it could take us down. I thought, yeah. So I wasn't sure how I felt about the vaccination. A lot of people said they would not get it. I decided to get it. Well, first of all, it was mandated. I had no choice. But also, I could have quit I was leaving it up to the experts, the scientists. So, like I said, I was mandated to get it. There was a handful of people that quit. Because they didn't want to get the vaccination. I respect everybody's decision, totally. Good old Dr.Pepper really brings back memories of my parents' store. So work was really tough. We suddenly had to change how the food went out. Normally we'd fill up 4 different carts. These are big carts called Susie carts. They're on wheels. Basically it's a big steam table on wheels. It's wider than this table. You know, probably it's square, but the same diameter square. Quite huge, quite heavy. We'd fill those full of food for each meal, and they'd be taken up to the different neighborhoods in the upstairs in the building. There was 2 floors they had to go to. We suddenly had to change how we did everything. Everybody's all gowned up. Everybody's movements were restricted. Couldn't go here, couldn't go there. So it was very difficult. And once again, we're still struggling to order food. And everybody had to mask up, all the delivery people that came in to drop off, you know, dairy products or produce or meat, you know. People are cranky and freaked out. The saddest part was all the residents in our facility were eventually cut off from the outside world. They would have family members come up and stand by their window and talk to them on a cell phone. That was sad. Couldn't hug or kiss anybody. And it kind of freaked out a lot of the residents because every face they saw was wearing a mask. They all looked the same. Didn't matter who they saw, that person was wearing a mask. It was a weird time. And eventually, somebody got the virus and brought it to work. All hell broke loose. There was meeting after meeting after meeting, one debriefing after another, and completely changed everything. Instead of starting my shift at 7, they wanted me to come in at 8. Instead of like I work 7 to 3, they wanted me to work 8 till 4. Why? I don't know. After 3 or 4 days, I said, look, this is stupid. It's screwing me up. For 30-some years, I worked 7 to 3, and they want me to work 8 till 4. It screwed up my breaks, my routine. I couldn't think straight. It was so stupid. I said, this doesn't make sense. Give me one reason why I should be doing this. And they couldn't give me a reason, so I just went back to my 7. I even said I'm just going to go back to 7 to 3, whether you like it or not. I mean, I said, you know, let's not get stupid about this. They really had no choice but to let me do what I wanted. And the whole method of serving, it's kind of hard to explain. You have to see it, but everything was out on these separate cards. I mean, it was like that before, but it just got really, really crazy, you know. It was just very difficult to work. Really, really difficult. Remember this one resident, she got the virus. For her, it's basically just like a cold. But one of the housekeepers, he was a good friend of mine. He's a young guy, he's kind of funny. I knew him since he was a little kid. He lived next door to me. I knew him when he was a little kid. I knew his dad. But he had to go in and clean a room, and he had to dress up. He looked like a beekeeper. I mean, he was head to toe in the mask and the gown and the head, you know, the head covering and shield and gloves up to his elbows. It was a wacky time to be at work. I think really, for everybody, we'd never had to deal with this before. Nobody had a clue. So they made all these stupid rules that really didn't make any sense. Like, you know, changing my schedule. What did that do? That was asinine. It made no sense. I can understand cutting off people's movements, restricting. The whole quarantine thing, I got that. And when we got deliveries, they couldn't come in the building. They had to leave them outside in the loading bay. We'd have to bring them in ourselves. And if I wasn't there, some of the other men, a lot of these young women who were kind of small in stature, they had to lift a lot of these big milk crates and, you know, a bag of sugar, which weighs, you know, like, 40, 50, 60 pounds, right? Now we have hand trucks and stuff, you know, dollies, but a lot of work, time consuming, very time consuming. Have to wipe everything down. If somebody touches that, I gotta wipe it down. Just, oh, good Lord. Constantly wiping down, spraying sanitizer. Just crazy. You know, there were a few people that did get it, the virus, staff members, and when they did, man, they were off for like a couple of weeks. By law, they had to quarantine for a certain amount of time. They couldn't come back to work after a certain amount of time. I think some people really thought that was great. I know traveling by ferry going to the mainland was very disruptive. Sometimes they lift the rules and then reinstate them again, and you know. Well, bizarre time to be working. I remember I went to get gas, and normally I always paid at the pump. I'm not sure why I didn't this time, or maybe I couldn't or something, but I walked to the gas station, and the gas attendant's behind this little tiny window, and we're, trying to, exchange money and all that. It was just kind of stupid, man. But where I worked, it was a sad time, Christmas. People couldn't see their families. A lot of those old people passed away and hadn't seen their families in months, or maybe longer. Now, in some cases, when a person was palliative, the family could come in. They'd be in a room there with them. But a lot of times, the person who was passing away, the elder, was no longer conscious anyway, or lucid or what, Very sad. Made work very difficult. Constantly having to change a menu because, couldn't get this, couldn't get that. Having to use all kinds of weird products, inferior products, instant mashed potatoes, and of course it just went on and on. All the daycare programs have been canceled for months at a time. We used to have kids come in like choirs, and kids come in to entertain the residents, like little groups of school kids or whatever. All that was put to an end. There was none of that for a long time. All those residents saw, all those elderly people, all they saw were people walking around with masks on. They never saw any more kids. There was other families. They saw the same people all the time. Couldn't tell them apart because they all looked the same wearing a mask. And then, finally, it seemed to be coming to an end. I remember we had to wear masks, but people would pull them down to breathe and talk, and nobody seemed to care anymore. Got to the point where I would have it on my neck, but I'd hardly ever wear it unless somebody came along and I put it on, Then, of course, got to the point where we didn't have to wear them anymore. I remember my last couple of months there. Now, when I think back, when we got our first case of COVID at work, like I said, all hell broke loose. The last couple of months I was there, somebody said, "Where's so-and-so? I haven't seen her in a while." And somebody said, "Oh, she has COVID." And that person said, "Oh, okay, whatever." It was not a big deal anymore, Didn't seem to be. I remember shortly after we had COVID at work, we all had to get tested, and I went to this drive-through. They're going to do a nasal swab. Now, they had it up at the local university. shove this big long Q-tip up your nose and pull it out, and off you go. But eventually I did get vaccinated. This outbreak was declared an outbreak in March of 2020, I think. And I think that January I got my first vaccination. What was it? Pfizer and Moderna. That was it. Anyways, I got 2 vaccinations, one in January and one later. Then I got this booster or something. So I think it was 2 Pfizers and a Moderna or something like that. I just hope I never have to live through that again. My heart goes out to all the people who lost loved ones. You know, it was awful for a lot of people. It really was. I hope we've learned from it. Psychologically, it was interesting how people would treat each other at the grocery store. I remember going to Costco, and this one guy and his wife were like, you know, we were walking, we hear this commotion over there. They're going like, get away from us, you know, you gotta be more than 6 feet away, you know, blah, 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 you know, just going on and on and on. You know, like some people are real anal about that, you know. You know, it brought out the worst in people, but also brought out the best in people. I remember going to the grocery store. I could see some guy was yelling at somebody because he was walking against the arrows or something. I guess he was walking outside, he saw some sort of backtrack a few feet. Anyways, it was a weird time. And I hope I don't ever have to go through that. You know, it was one thing I said many times, if I'd been retired just sitting around and, you know, doing videos like this or something, it would have been one thing, but going to work, wow, what a schmo. You never knew what you were walking into every day. The whole supply chain, you just couldn't get food, you know. I don't know if you remember where a lot of times people go to the grocery store, they load up with a shopping cart full of meat and toilet paper. Really? And for the longest time, we couldn't get masks and stuff. You know what was interesting? Was a year earlier, Linda and I went to Asia. We'd gone to Asia, and I took about 20 masks because there's no shortage of we had box of them, you know. And I took about 20 masks. I thought if we're going to Asia, maybe I know a lot of times people wear masks there because of smog and whatever. And we never ended up using them at all. So when the COVID thing hit, I had about 20 masks at home, right? Or maybe not quite that many, but I had some masks. So that kind of gave me a head start. So I always have my own supply, right? It was weird. I remember driving home from work. I'm driving, I look in the mirror and I still have my mask on. Drive home by myself with my mask on. Forgot to take it off. But Linda's son-in-law, he used to deliver. He drove a great big big delivery truck. And he went over to Vancouver this one time. And he said it was downright creepy. Because he gets out of his truck and there's nobody around. Like a city like Vancouver is just bustling. And he said there was just like nobody. It was like the Twilight Zone. He said it was just downright creepy. There was nobody around. I remember that too, driving home one day. was no longer an issue. Of course, it would eventually be officially announced that it was over. It was just a few years ago. Then I went to watch fireworks in a neighboring town. I remember noticing that. I never saw anybody wearing a mask. And yet there was a time when all those things were canceled. You know, every gathering was canceled, you know. Even outdoor stuff was canceled. But when I left work, I retired in 2022. I can't remember if they're still doing temperatures or not. I can't remember. But like I said, come in, take a temperature, write it down. When you left, write it down again. I like these little pizzas. They're good. This is really good, I have to admit, you know. For a pizza, get the deli, take it home and cook it up. I've thought about buying some and maybe adding a little bit more cheese or a few more toppings, like olives or something, or picking some fresh basil out of the garden, throwing some few leaves on. Just right for one person. I'm getting full, my friends. Oh, that lava lamp is just so cool, isn't it? I seem to be noticing it more because normally it's sitting more to my side, but here it's kind of not in front of me, but it's more in my view. I don't think I'm doing any cookies. I am stuffed. Absolutely stuffed. Stuffed like a big Thanksgiving turkey. Wow. So, I want to thank the viewer who suggested this. I don't like mentioning viewers' names unless I have their permission. But anyways, they know who they are. I know who they are. So thank you for suggesting this. And also, if you want to shout out or a birthday wish, or you want something for somebody else, just hit me up. Excuse me. Excuse me. So, as you know, Linda and I are going to be on vacation pretty soon. So, when I'm away, I will have videos uploaded at a time. But I can't answer your comments, so if you post a comment I don't answer it, it's because I'm not there to answer it. I will not be doing anything with the computer when I'm on vacation. As a matter of fact, I'm not even bringing my phone with me. Linda will bring hers, but I'm leaving mine at home. When I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation. So anyways, there it is, my friends. I wonder if I should just have maybe one little cookie. I'll have this weird one here, like this. Boing, boing, boing. Hi there, I'm the talking cookie. I'm the talking cookie, yeah. Okay, that was just right. Okay, thanks for tuning in. Look after yourselves. Stay amazing out there in the land of awesome. Look after yourselves, look after each other. And we'll see you next time, okay?